ethics and with how you deal with ethics investigations, and therefore it have to be removed. Am I wrong? Could it be put in statute of Indian law instead of just a rule?
It really can't, because the Constitution gives as it presently is stated, gives the sole exclusive jurisdiction to the legislature to discipline its members. It's one of the reasons why, as we looked at the Citizens Initiative, we thought, there's probably a constitutional challenge here. If somehow or another you were taking away a constitutional requirement. That's why we felt like that a constitutional amendment should be done, so that we clarify once and for all that the Ethics Commission, similar to what we have in SGR 3, is part of the constitutionally protected commission. But we chose not to have it tied. That it only passed if the constitutional amendment passed.
I can tell Senator Hilliard wants to say something back there. Step up closer so that you can be picked up.
Well, I have to smile at the questions because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And that's where the life gets to be. And I think what we're looking at is as Senator Valentine said, a constitutional amendment, so we really clearly erase that issue. And we've set it up in a way that I think makes that clear. I think the second, we always need to have flexibility to change anything. And as the President said, we could end up doing it much stronger. We have an advantage that what does the public want? When you go through a campaign process and go out and talk to people, your voters, and spend all that time campaigning, I think you get a pretty good feel of what your district wants. If you don't get reelected. And I think so. You come back with a feeling of what people are telling you as you're out doing that campaign. That's far better than polls, in my view. That's the ultimate poll. When people go to vote, and they know where you stand and what your issues are, and if they don't like it, they can change it. But I think it would be very foolish in anything that we did to, in the Constitution, to put it someplace so absolutely thing that is strong that we could never change it. That reminded me of a story about building a great fence around it, how protected you are at the fence, until finally you decided inside the fence was horrible. Now you couldn't get out. So it cuts both ways. And so I think Senator Valentine has put the thing in very good perspective. And is it absolutely certain that's exactly what we want, and we want this 100 years from now? It would be foolish to say we did. I think the general language gives us the flexibility to do what the people want, because we face that ultimate poll every 2 years.
So speaking of polls, on the polls of what the people want, this actually ranks very low. Are there any other higher quality issues that you'd like to discuss today?
On the legislative...
I take it that means no?
Can you tell me what the penalty for that is?
That's found on page 13 of the bill. The following actions are contempt for the legislature in relation to proceedings of this title: disobedience of the direction of the commission chair.
No, I'm sorry. I mean the actual. If you're found in contempt of the legislature,
It's easy. You have to be a news reporter and follow the press or the legislature for 100 years.
It just feels that way.
So that'll be Rod Decker.
you said that.
Rocket Joe, and I'll find out for you.
And my other question in regards to that, when it talks about privacy complaints and contempt, it says a person, which presumably means everybody, and it gives a list of people who can't talk. Does that mean that, say, a reporter or the guy at Kinko's or the coffee shop hears about there's an ethics complaint, he says anything to anybody that he found in contempt of the legislature?
Could, I guess, if it's egregious enough. It's a matter of degree.
How is that not a First Amendment violation?
Judge can tell me that I can't talk outside the court about a case.
But can he tell the entire world? I mean, it says a person.
Well, he can tell me that he has jurisdiction. And I guess if somebody did that in the shop, what kind of power could we really do in the legislature? We get barred from coming here or speaking, or those privileges of the floor, those types of things. That may not be the sanction. I don't think we really want to expand that further to have this problem without arrest. Certainly not.
Let me make a comment on this. You know, you got to understand this was studied all year long by two different committees. And this is their best effort to tell us what they think should happen. And we had a lot of attorneys on there. They've gone out of their way to make sure that this passes what they believe was constitutional muster. And so now we're trying to implement that to the best of our ability here. And so there's been a ton of effort going into these. And I don't believe there's any underlying desire for the legislature to escape this. Let me tell you, we're not all happy about this. We are doing our very best.
They're not all happy.
We are doing our very best to implement these changes that these committees have come up with.
Where's that unhappiness coming from? What are you referring to there?
That there is a number of members that are still very concerned about whether or not SGR 3 even is too restrictive. They look at the Citizens Initiative with its multiple problems, and they say, well, that's obviously not going to pass constitutional muster. Then they look at SGR 3 and they say, well, what about this line, the privacy line that Brock just raised? I've just highlighted it, and we'll go back and look at it again and see if it does need to be focused on. One of the reasons why this is the third day of the session, and it's out early, so we can have this kind of continuing discussion, and we don't just pass something in the waning 1 month of the session that we say, oh, well, we need to change all that. We felt it was really important to have this out early, and that's why we got it out here on the third day of the session.
But that's also why we're not jamming it through the third day of the session either. We're being methodical, working these things out. If we were just concerned about the public perception that we were doing something, we'd have probably had a bill over to the House by now. But we're trying to work through all the processes that make it good legislation. This is no different than the way we do other legislation, and it shouldn't be construed to be different. We're trying to do the citizens' work the way the citizens have set up our state constitution, our state processes. We're trying to be responsible and do the work we were sent here to do, contrary to perhaps the way the press feels like it would make a good story.
And going back to your point about not prejudicing the vote, is that what you meant there, that you want to get the language on this right, or do you have a problem with that?
No, there's two resolutions. There's the one that sets it up as the constitutional amendment, and there's the one that sets up how that functions. The constitutional amendment is our first priority, to make sure that it's set up there so that people will know that we're serious about it. The secondary one is the one that we don't want to prejudice the constitutional amendment.
But how do you keep from doing that?
The way you would totally keep from doing it is to not run the second one. The question is that fair? I think we're just about to the point where we all feel like they need to see some of the flesh on the bones before they evaluate the total product.
Correct. The President's exactly right. We didn't feel like it was fair to ask the voters to just vote for the bare bones constitutional amendment without seeing what that constitutional amendment would mean in real life.